It makes my head look like Krillin.
I look like Raccoon Man. If I try this.
I've got 4 years.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. We're not doing this.
No, take it away. Take it away.
Hey everybody, I'm Anthony.
And I'm Zane.
And this is the Dynamic Review. Today is a special episode which we're going to dedicate to the new animated series, Beware the Batman. Now, as a lot of you know who watched the show and have read my blog and our website will know that I am not a big fan of Beware the Batman. One, because I'm a Joker fan, I'm a Two-Face man. I love the original Rogue Gallery, and I don't like the fact that they got rid of it. But this series may have changed my mind. Me and Zane both watched it, and so now we're going to give you our review of the show, what we thought about it.
Yeah, it's a great, different take, I thought. You know, it distilled down different aspects of shows that have been successful in the past. I saw a little bit of the Batman from the early 2000s. I saw some elements of the later seasons of Bruce Timm's animated series, and they've kind of been incorporating what was successful with the Green Lantern TV show.
Mm-hmm. Well, I see, like, my big thing was the body type, like the body design, and it was weird, like their faces are weird, but when you take away from that, you're just like, okay, it doesn't have to be amazing. Everyone has to have their own little like signature to the design and animation.
Yeah,
so it had it, and so I don't like the eyes. The eyes creep me out because even the Batman eyes, they start like right here and they go all the way to like the temples.
They look like they're painted on their face.
Yeah, I don't like that, but I do like how like Bruce Wayne, when you see him, like he's bruised, like he stays bruised, and that's something that I didn't really get from like the cartoon was like when someone got hurt, you had to keep drawing it, but with CG. You create a design and you basically play with this puppet in different scenes. I thought that was kind of cool, so that's definitely going to work for it.
You got to see some of the, I guess, consequences of action. You know, dude gets hit, he's gonna be bruised.
Yeah. And I was trying to think of a good way to say it. Like, and we were even talking like with this type of animation, there's like the action of point A and point B, and you can see everything that happens between those 2 points. With animation, with especially hand-drawn animation, it's, you know, you could put a lot of detail into it, but you have a lot more, and it takes a lot more time to draw it all.
Yeah.
So you don't put all that in. You only focus on the motion of, you know, the object. And this one, you get to see everything. Everything has its own movement.
Yeah,
that's kind of cool.
It gets back to sort of this idea that I've always had about 3D animation. It's more like puppetry than it's really like animation. And it's more like stop motion. And they have the same drawbacks, but they also have their advantages. You don't have to spend as much time constantly rendering the motion of, say, like a ball being thrown. But you lose a lot of expression and control. As an animator, it's weird to say that since you have so many factors under your control that you actually give up some. Because there are feats, like we watched the Shanghai Batman short right after we had watched this one, and there was so much more going on and so much more explosive strangeness that you can't really pull off with the CGI where it's so very controlled.
Well, also, it's with the Shanghai Batman, they exaggerate stuff. Like when they landed, there was like this like looked like ink blotches when they moved. Yeah, and that stuff's really cool, which you can't put in CG because it wouldn't make sense. I know the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle show is CG, and they try to add that kind of stuff to it, and it just looks stupid. Because it's a two-dimensional, like the question mark going over their head, that doesn't work in CG because
it's not a cartoon.
Work. Yeah,
it's not a cartoon. I think that's the big thing is CGI. It's not a cartoon, and it's interesting. I thought that there were some really cool character models. That's the big thing is they did a very good job creating unique character models for the world that they're making because it's different than the other Batmans we've had before. Like Alfred.
Yeah. Alfred, who's not the butler anymore. I guess we should go back and say there are spoilers in this episode. But yeah, Alfred is more of a bodyguard than a butler. I think that's a cool take because I mean I love Alfred and I love the character of Alfred, but it's nice to have him where he's not just the, you know,
helpless bumbling butler.
Yeah, helpless butler. You know, I give you good advice and I iron your clothes. Now I give you good advice, and if you mess up, I'll come in and kind of clean it up.
Yeah, he's more
a mentor.
Yeah, a mentor. He's more than just a confidant because that's kind of how Alfred was. He was a parental enabler. He was the, you know, when he sat back, I was like, no, you can go and run around and beat yourself up, and I'll always have warm soup and bandages waiting for you when you get home. Now he's like, oh, your wake-up call is me trying to hit you to death with a bat. So...
that was kind of cool.
Yeah. It's very different, and their relationship reminds me of older Bruce Wayne from Batman Beyond and Terry McGinnis. It's much more of this investigator that is Alfred, the cerebral one who doesn't go out in the field, and then you have the young hero, who's able to go out and do the physical stuff, who depends on the intelligence, the reconnaissance of his butler. Pretty neat.
Yeah. All right, and as I mentioned before, I wasn't a big fan because they're not introducing Joker and all the classic Rogue Gallery. So in this series, we're going to see people like Anarchy, Humpty Dumpty, Professor Pig, Mr. Toad, and Magpie. So, but in this episode, which I think is called The Hunt, I could probably wrong, I'll leave an annotation to say if I'm right or wrong, but we got to see Professor Pig and Mr. Toad, and they go on this hunting spree through Gotham. So what do you think of them as being characters? Like, do you think that it's almost as if we're saying, oh, we're not going to use the serious Batman villains, so here are our jokey ones?
Yeah, there was almost a goofiness to it, but it wasn't campy. It's not like the Adam West Batman at all, but it's still not quite as dark and serious as the Batman animated series was. Mm-hmm. There's still this sense of danger, and it's a good way, I think, for DC to introduce these characters that haven't had a lot of time on the screen, and give them a chance to shine, to get exposure, to get people interested in them. And that was successful, I think, and I think it'll do well in the long term for them to be able to pull in all of these sort of unknown villains.
Yeah,
and it'll let them have some free reign. What they're doing reminds me a lot of the older Batman adventure series. The last one, what was it called again?
The Batman? Brave and the Bold.
But Brave and the Bold. Yeah, it was a lot like Brave and the Bold almost.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that, especially for Professor Pig and Toad, for this kind of genre, because Professor Pig in the Grant Morrison run was a butcher.
Yeah.
And so in this one, you can't have him be a butcher on a kid's show, but I feel like he wouldn't be able to do the things he did as a cartoon, because you just see a man in a pig mask, and it's not very scary. But in this, because of the CG and I guess the shadowing of how the character is built,
the voice.
And the voice, yeah. You're like, oh, he's kind of funny, but at the same time, it's twisted enough that it kind of creeps you out.
He goes on this sort of like running man, I'm going to hunt down all of these millionaires that have drained the wetlands. So he brings in this, he's like a mix of Poison Ivy, the Joker, and Ra's al Ghul in one character. And because he's got his whole like, you betrayed the animals and I will hunt you down. Sort of kick. Yeah.
Not only that, but even had like their theme music it sounded like it was something straight from Sherlock Holmes. Like dun 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 dun, like that was really cool. So overall, I really enjoyed it. So final words on Beware the Batman episode 1.
Worth watching. It's worth watching. I think that's about it.
Yeah,
it's worth watching.
Well, after looking at the teaser reel that came out a couple weeks ago, and then now this. You know what? I'll run with it. I'm with you. It's worth watching because it's something completely different, and it's not to say. But what's cool with this one is my final word that it's not a replacement for like the Batman animated series because it's a completely different medium and it's a completely different take on Batman. Whereas other cartoons, you have to compete with it, and since it's a completely different genre, it's just like the only thing it has to compete with is Arkham City. Yeah. Screwed over. Sorry, guys.
I just gotta do a postscript then. Like it's like what the Batman, the early 2000s one, wanted to be right after we got done with Batman the animated series. Mm-hmm. I just couldn't pull it off because everyone was disappointed when that happened. Yeah. But now I think that they found a happy medium place, and I think it'll work.
Just one more question on that. Do you think the Batman would have done better if it was made now than it was being the series that came after Justice League, Batman Beyond, and Batman the series?
Most definitely. It was too radically different from what people were used to. Mm-hmm. Just look at the main villain. Look at the Joker. At the time, I completely hated that Joker. Now,
Rastafarian Joker's awesome.
Yeah, I think he's hilarious. Like him hanging from his toes and like all the balloons and stuff. Oh, that was great.
But that was a cool. Your screen got weird.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I just roll with it.
But like the cool thing about that series is the villains never seem to run out of either raw materials or money. Like you don't just buy a blimp. You just don't steal blimps.
Where do they keep coming from?
But either way, okay. So, yeah, that is the latest episode of the Dynamic Review. I know there hasn't been an episode in a long, long time, and I apologize for that. But we're gonna hopefully start to produce stuff more on a schedule. I'm not gonna say what the schedule is right now because why lie to you guys again? So yeah, as usual, visit the website, www.thedynamicbuzz.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, leave a comment down below. Keep it cool, don't be a douche. I mean, what can I say, but it's YouTube.
Yep.
Alright guys, so I'm Anthony.
And I'm Zane.
That's the Buzz.
Buzz.
I know, I really need a better slogan.